All right, what is going on, guys? We are trying a different setup for the video today. Want to do a more relaxed setup and just kind of chill, have a little discussion, and then review a movie that I watched. And before you ask, yes, yeah, we've got the beverage right here. Sipping on some kombucha today. Alright, so the movie that I want to discuss is Priscilla from 2023, the Sofia Coppola movie about the life of Priscilla Presley, and it was based on her autobiography. Sofia Coppola is one of my absolute favorite directors, with her first three movies, Virgin Suicides, Lost in Translation, and then Marie Antoinette being my ultimate fave. Marie Antoinette's one of my favorite movies ever. So good. But yeah, so I was looking forward to watching this Priscilla movie. Didn't catch it when it came out, but it was on the radar. And then Kaylee Spaney stars as Priscilla, and this is the girl who I just discovered in Civil War movie. And she is great. She was great in both roles, but yeah, it's really great in Priscilla as this girl who, like, it's not even that she's like this wide-eyed girl, it's that she's just kind of like this open-eyed girl. Like, for a lot of the movie, she has to kind of observe things, and is sort of this very plain surface of a character, which allows us to, but while being that sort of plain surface, she manages to be this character that we can really, I think, empathize with during the movie. And yeah, she just does a great job walking that line of, like, of really just being this kind of innocent young girl, but who is aware enough of what's going on, of what's happening to her, and has like enough of a sense of agency as well, even when it feels like she isn't really able to act on it. But the way that they balance those aspects of her character make it a really, I think, empathetic story. It starts off, when she's 14 and meets Elvis at his crib, which I didn't even realize that whole meeting, because I'd heard the story at least of that meeting, and then that obviously that they got married later, but I didn't realize that it was actually in Germany, because I didn't even realize that Elvis that he was in the military. I guess he was actually drafted in 1958, which I honestly did not think about the draft happening during that time, because there wasn't a war going on at that exact time, because I'm pretty sure Korea was over. Yeah, our involvement at least, and then our send soldiers over there, and then obviously Vietnam hadn't started yet. But anyways, Elvis was stationed in Germany, and so he would invite the other Americans over to his house, to his parties, and I guess like his friend, there's this guy on the military base where Priscilla lives who kind of like scouts her out, kind of like, I guess, I don't know exactly what the story, but it seems like he kind of just picks her as somebody that Elvis would want to meet, which, I don't know, it's kind of like there's a little bit of like, since the whole film's from her perspective, we don't know exactly like what caused that meeting to be set up. This guy just appears, and then he's like, yeah, well, me and my wife will chaperone you at the Elvis party. And then she's all like, oh, mom and dad, like, please let me go, like anything else. And then she's eventually able to go, and then her whole life with Elvis starts from there. But speaking of mom and dad, her parents in this movie are so good. They're um, I think they're just both likable characters, especially her mom, who's played by Dagmara Domansik. I don't know exactly how to say it, but the woman from Succession, Carlita from Succession, and she's has some other supporting roles too in different things. And she's always great, but she's super good as this, like, I feel like, understanding mom who just wants her daughter to be happy at the start. And then the dad is like, he's almost like the stereotypical military dad that we're used to in movies, but he doesn't like go to that extreme. He doesn't go to that cartoonish level, which I really appreciated, because you could, he felt like a real guy too, that you could understand him, because in this whole situation of their daughter getting courted by Elvis, it's like none of them really, you can tell that none of them really know exactly what to do, and they're like, does our daughter want to do this? Okay, like maybe if she doesn't want to do something else, then, or it just seems like she's not happy just being alone in Germany on this base. So they're like, oh, okay, I guess this is what she wants, and they're kind of hesitant, but they go with it. It really doesn't become like as big of a fight as it could be, but you can tell that they're all just kind of not sure exactly what to do and making sense of the situation. And that kind of way of overturning stereotypes, I feel like at each point, was one of the things that I really enjoyed about this movie. Firstly, with the portrayal of her parents and her dynamic with them, and then as I have to talk about Elvis himself, played by Jacob Elordi, our favorite, in this movie, and he actually does a great job in his role, which is not exactly Elvis Presley. I feel like he's playing this like one kind of interior side of Elvis, and the side that Priscilla sees. He's kind of just like playing that facet of Elvis. So not the one that we're used to in other movies, and not the public facing Elvis or the performer Elvis, but just the guy, almost boy, in how he acts, who is just surrounded by his family that he grew up with, and then kind of his group of yes men, be it the Colonel, who they never actually, I don't think, if I remember correctly, the Colonel's not actually in any scenes. Elvis just talks about him, and then all of his like friends who I guess he grew up with them, but they live like with him and his family at Graceland in Tennessee, and he's kind of just like this. He's the center of their social world, but it's really just this smaller world of like 20, 30 people that Priscilla gets dropped into. And so, like I was saying, Elordi is actually really good at doing that, kind of more human take on Elvis. But yeah, it wouldn't, I don't think it would have worked as well, right, if we had him play like Elvis in an Elvis biopic, just because, I just think that he has his own look. It would just be kind of weird, like Jacob Elordi as Elvis. But the way that they did it in this, it actually worked really well, because it was almost like a new role that the movie was creating, and he played that role well, especially balancing, like being able to balance his likability between some of the scenes where he does more like some of the scenes where he's just purely controlling, and almost seems like, and just seems kind of weird and kind of messed up. And then these other scenes where, he's being a nice guy, he's having fun with everybody, he's, giving Priscilla things, he's showing her around, and he's giving her time, which obviously becomes a big thing in the movie, how much time he's able to spend with her versus out on the road making movies and with other women. And that is so most of the movie is spent once Priscilla moves out to Graceland to live with the family, which she does, I guess. Seems like maybe in the middle of her senior year of high school, sometime around then. Because then she's still going to high school. She's in the United States. She moves back from the military base, so she leaves her parents to join Fort Elvis at Graceland, and then and from there she graduates high school, and then kind of has nothing to do during the days. And then even when she was in high school, she would have nothing to do really when she got home, if Elvis wasn't there. And so the whole movie is kind of this struggle for her of being stuck in another person's life. Like, she's just stuck in Elvis's life, and living at Graceland, she really has no freedoms. There's so many limits on her life. She can't bring friends over. They don't want, there's no like outsiders coming in. She can't even like be in the front yard where it's visible to the street in this great scene where she's like playing with the dog, just kind of like in the middle of the yard, but the fans out front at the gate can see her, and they're kind of watching her. Then one of the women who works with the family drives in the gate in a car, and she's like, "Oh, Priscilla, what are you doing out here? You can't make a public show of yourself, public display of yourself." And Priscilla's just like, "Oh, okay." And then so she goes back in. But again, it's this like process of her being alone, her being kind of trapped, but in this life that's really the only life she knows, because she got into it when she was so young. And then this being, this like kind of on paper like desirable situation, but as I said, but then in practice it seems like a very undesirable situation, until Elvis is home, and then sometimes it's like totally awesome. But it's that like, it's kind of the same waves of emotion that keep like crashing and then like receding over time. Like, when Elvis is there, they hang out a lot, they have fun, they are sort of like a normal couple who just does all these crazy things together. And then he has to leave, and then he goes out and makes a movie, and then she's kind of stuck there alone again, and meanwhile he's with other women on the road. And you really get the sense of kind of a cumulative experience for Priscilla, and how sometimes her emotions are based on not just like what's happening this month, but what's happened 2 years ago, and kind of how the whole pattern of her life played out. And so the movie really is, what the movie is ultimately working towards is her finding her own independence, which from the time she meets him, she's like, she's 14, right? And then they even start dating right then, and he kind of becomes her life, her obsession, for like those couple of years before they're able to be together again, when she moves to America. And so she never has the opportunity to. Oh, the garage is opening. Hopefully that's not too loud. But as I said, she never gets the opportunity to become her own person. And so after these these series of years at Graceland, and then she, including, so they get married during that time. Then later they have a kid, like, probably around the same time. They have a kid, or like, maybe a year later, they have their child. And then she's like a mother there for a couple years. And then ultimately decides that she's gonna go and find her own life. So, she tries to get they get the divorce, and then the last shot is her just driving out of Graceland on her own in the car. And it's really nice. I mean, the word nice almost sounds too small, but it's a touching movie that I think does an admirable job of never overdoing any of the elements, of kind of letting them just exist as they are, as they're seen by Priscilla, and the whole thing has this feeling of like it is what it is. That's kind of a feeling that pervades the whole movie, because she doesn't know anything else, right? And so we get to feel that. And then one more thing that I want to talk about that was great in the movie was the music, right? So Sofia Coppola always does the constant needle drops, right? Which some directors I don't like when they do it, but she just puts the best songs in. She puts the best songs in her movies. I think she might have the closest music taste to me out of all the big needle drop directors, but she pulls it off. And then there's a few songs that were made originally for this that it seemed like they got kind of like contemporary instrumental groups to do songs like instrumentals to be themes in this movie, and then the one that they play at the end and that there's had kind of been notes of throughout the whole movie, like kind of matching that sort of emotional current that I said that kind of crashes throughout the movie, those waves. But anyway, the song is called My Elixir by the band Sons of Raphael, which I had never heard of, but this song is so good. I've been listening to it nonstop to just feel that kind of, that sense of beauty, that sense of weight, and kind of like something that you can almost like you can't really touch it. You can grab at it, but you can't touch. And that theme is so good. And they also use this kind of, I don't know if it's almost like a xylophone or almost like a music box sound, like a very childish sound. And it makes for a great theme of the movie, because it just constantly reminds you how, yeah, she's really like still a child, because she hasn't been able to live her own life. So that song has been great, My Elixir by Sons of Raphael. And then overall, it's just a really good movie, man. It's a good movie. I enjoyed it. It doesn't come down to one thing, so it's kind of weird to like try to do a conclusion. I don't know why I'm trying to like do a conclusion that just focuses on one thing. There's so much that goes into it. But they, hit a lot of the notes well. They walk the lines well. Interesting, empathetic take on that story. So, yeah. But this was chill. Probably something that I'll want to try again, just for me, just because it's fun. So, thanks for listening. If you did make it to this point, hope it was enjoyable, and hope it was potentially relaxing as well, as that's what I'm going for here. So, all right, I will see you guys in the next one.